Hello. Welcome back. I'm very excited for our final session of our second annual Digital CMC Summit, of course, before the Innovation Challenge this afternoon. I just want to say it has been really fun getting to know everybody, hanging out with you guys. This is a great crowd of people, and I just enjoy every single conversation I've had so far, so thank you for that. This session is on the future of QbDVision. There's two important points that I want to make before I leave the stage. The first one is just a huge thank you to the engineering team of QbDVision. Without you guys, a lot of these things would never have been possible. The things you're going to see in the next hour has a lot to do with the things they've been working on. They have completed over 100 different features since I stood on stage last year, and over 150 different things behind the scenes that you don't even see. So security, performance, all these different various improvements, maintainability of the code, et cetera. So just thank you for that. Very much appreciate it. My second point is I want to talk a little bit about what I see for the future of QbDVision, right? When we started QbDVision, we were thinking about how paper maps and digital maps were just so much different, and how the world of pharma was very paper-based, and if it was digital, it'd be a very different world. And I'll be honest with you, when I first saw paper maps, and then I saw a digital map like Google Maps or MapQuest, I thought, oh, cool, you know, when I go to the edge of a paper map, I have to have a different paper map. And this one just scrolls seamlessly. You know, it's sure it's a digital copy, but later on I realized, no, there's really big differences here, right? I can tell that the time it takes to drive from Cincinnati to Austin is 14 hours now, and I can see a perfect route. And so I can do more things like that. I can see construction information. I can overlay, you know, traffic and speed bumps and whatever, right? Speed traps, sorry. Today, I feel like we're pretty close. We've gotten there pretty much, where you can now put your digital information in QbDVision. You can see all the different relationships. There's still more to do, but as I look to the future, I realize that we're just getting started. I mean, in terms of the ability for us to basically to help you be smarter, right? So it's about, hey, I've got this problem. How have we solved this in the past, right? And I think some of you have used Menta, which is an actual text interface that's in experimental form right now. And you can log in and you can ask some of those questions against public data. But in the future, and of course we're going to get the security right, is being able to ask about your own company's data. How have we done this in the past? How do we do this here? You know, also like warnings, like what are some of the things that I'm going to find along the way? You know, Yoshka showed a really nice 50-liter to 200-liter and so on, right? Like, okay, what have I learned so far that's going to help me at the next level, right? How do I draw correlations of things and get myself information, and ideally in really simple, really easy to understand way, right, in the future? And then also, how do I spread this information to my organization, right? So that's a little bit of Doc Builder, what you've seen today, but I think that's going to grow dramatically in terms of how do I push this information out to all the people who need it. And it's probably not in PDF form, if we're all being honest with ourselves, right? 5 years from now, hopefully we're not, you know, oh yeah, I'll just send you an email with the information. It'll be more interactive, more digital, right? More like Google Maps is today. It's not just a map on paper. It's the ability for you actually to interact with it and to see it and to understand it. So with that said, I will invite Luke Guerrero on stage. This is the man who's on more Zoom calls than any human being on Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, now we get to have a little bit of fun. Really excited about what we have to show you today. But I guess first, really excited about what this conference provides as an opportunity to collaborate. So before we kind of dive into the roadmap, I want to kind of reiterate what Ryan said. First, definitely a huge shout out to our engineering team. Thank you guys for getting us to where we are. Also, the quiet storm that's been knocking this place down, our marketing team, who's done a phenomenal job setting this up, coordinating all the little pieces of it. Thank you guys. We wouldn't be here without you, and I know you guys had a lot of sleepless nights getting us here, so kudos to you guys. But also to you guys. So you'll notice that when we talk about this conference and when we talk about Digital CMC, we don't talk about QbDVision. Sure, our logo's there. Sure, we're sponsoring it. But our vision for this conference is to one day not have us run it, right? We want this to be a place where we all collaborate on the future of CMC. You heard it in our presentations almost. It was pretty cool because we didn't prompt, we didn't do as much coordination on the talks, but everyone kind of said, hey, we can't do this by ourselves, right? That is the realization that I think we all have. And that's why we put this conference on. That's why we're getting here. That kind of drives how we build as we think about the future of our ecosystem. Because the digital world isn't monolithic. And that's the world that we're going towards. That's the world that we're building towards. So, last year we started. Shout out to our first OG sponsor, Ziffo R&D. So they were there with us last year. We accumulated a few more this year. So Rockwell and Zather, huge sponsors for this event. Thank you guys. But really, where we see it going, and Dan left here, I kind of told him, like, in 3 years when we're on the stage, we want it to be everybody participating. It's not just us leading it. So I'm going to get a chance to walk you through our roadmap, but my vision for this in 3 or 4 years is we have a ton of companies up here doing the same thing, really talking about how we're going to provide leadership in the space, and really excited for all the good questions you guys have asked and the opportunities you've given us to collaborate. So with that, welcome to our final content session. I'm gonna be joined today by my amazing and fun and also matching colleague, Natalie Quan. She was not excited about me forcing us to match, but so we had the opportunity to steal Natalie from a customer. She was one of our earliest users. She was a PD scientist and super amazing, brilliant, and there was an opportunity where we had to kind of get her to join our team, and Jean-Marie told me about it, and I was like, yes. It was awesome, and she has been amazing. She joined us. She was here last year for the start, and kind of really, I think that was just a couple months in, and she has done so much for our organization, and I think she's going to take you through a lot of the stuff that she's built, and it's really amazing. So we're gonna tag team this session and kind of show you what we've done, and it's going to focus on 2 parts. So the first part, which we're going to go through, is we're going to show you some of the things that we have been building. These have been released, or they're about to be released, or they're in late stage R&D. And then the second part, we're going to go through and we're going to talk a little bit more big picture strokes. Where are we going? What do we want to do? Where do we see ourselves being? And then we'll wrap up and have some fun and go into a hackathon. So with that, of course, am I up anywhere? Did I lose you guys? Ta-da, okay. Yes, a note that someone should read. All right. So yeah, first part, welcome. So again, our goal as we think about the products that we build is trying to really weave together this CMC ecosystem. We kind of switched things up a little bit this year. Last year, we wanted this like Amazon-like moment or this Apple-like moment. We had a bunch of big reveals. We showed off Doc Builder. We showed off the library. They were the worst kept secrets in the world. Everyone already saw them by the time we got to the stage because we were just so excited about what we're building. But it's really been kind of awesome to see. We had 2 presentations. We saw Blake was showing off the material library and how they're using it, and Yashka and Grant talked about Doc Builder. And really the pickup of those 2 tools were amazing. But this year, you're going to see some stuff. Some of it we've already released. The Zather team, gave a shout out to some of the APIs we have been building. So you've seen some of that in motion in the product. But we're really, really excited to show you some of these things. And some of them will be new. Some of them you may have seen depending on how much or how close you have been to us. But be prepared to have some fun. So with that, I'll invite Natalie up to the stage to talk about some of our innovations.
So I'm going to go ahead and take a deep dive into Doc Builder. Before I start, I'm going to give a quick overview for those of you who are not yet familiar with the feature. So Doc Builder is our internal document editor, it allows users to build their documents and reports directly within QbDVision. It leverages integrated data through the power of smart content, which enables users to define a structure for the information within their documentation. So with Doc Builder, we built it to address the knowledge management gap and the lack of continuity that exists between the product and process information and outputs. And the first release of Doc Builder was focused on report generation. So I'm going to hop into the software to show you. Okay, so this is what a completed process description report looks like. This is one of the 2 templates that we offer today, this along with the CQA assessment report, as well as starting from a blank document. So if you scroll through, you can see that we have an introduction, a process flow diagram, unit operations, and we break down the pattern of the unit operations with the steps, the descriptions, equipment list, material list, process parameters, and more. And so report generation is what we went after the first iteration of Doc Builder because we wanted to make a quicker way so you could build these reports, right? They have a typical pattern that you can break down using widgets, and that's what we were really excited for. This year, what we went after was the master batch record. So we wanted to go after a master batch record because it's a key piece of documentation that bridges development all the way through manufacturing, which is an area that we've been focused on this year. So I'm going to pull up what a master batch record may look like to you today. We distilled this one down from all of the different examples from customers that we've seen, and we distilled it down to its common elements. So typically, they're in a table format. Again, they have that list of equipment, raw materials, and then what happens is you have a breakdown of the manufacturing process broken down by each step. And within this, what you see is that there's not necessarily the same pattern to the data. One, let me bring you first to the master batch record in our software. So we took this and then we brought it into here. And as you can see now, it's possible to build your own record within. Now the exciting part is, okay, so we can build this in a blank template. We added the formatting. But our document is integrated with smart content. Let me go ahead and zoom in here. All right, that's better. All right, and so when you scroll through, you can see smart content is any of the specific information that's highlighted or outlined in blue. We brought in that bill of materials, and then we have the breakdown of the manufacturing steps. So now with our new smart content menu, we have 2 options. I'm going to start off in the widgets tab, and what you have here is, again, when you have any information that's structured with a pattern and can be broken down, then you want to go ahead and use a widget to automate populating this information so you don't have to manually enter the specifics each time. So here, a bill of materials is your all-inclusive material list, so you don't want to go ahead and add those items in. So you can pick to build a widget, you click through, add a model, scroll down to click unit operation, and then you can add a filter or 2 to kind of hone in on that information. Once you've built that repeater, you can layer it in with another table widget. So you can play around to have these different combinations to specify the information you want to show. And now when you're in here, you can see that you can break down into the menu and add the specific field names. So if you were an early adopter of Doc Builder, this menu experience is completely upgraded for adding in the smart content. We wanted to make it even easier and faster to use. The new type of way that we added smart content, or built so that you can add smart content, is best shown through these steps. Again, the way that we see these steps outlined, there's not really a consistent pattern. Sometimes you want to add, all of the materials that apply to that step, and you want to have a table where you can record the amount that was actually weighed. Other times you want to have kind of plain text and lines that you need to specify different information, or you just need to call in one specific material and a target weight. So here, what I would do is that I'll just show you how to build it out. I would navigate to the Smart Content tab. I can open my process open the steps, and it will load the most up-to-date data that's interconnected with your Process Explorer module, your Process Explorer tree. So again, this is a major upgrade in terms of usability from what we had in our first iteration, because now you see the data right there, live and connected. Okay, and then if I want to, let's say, build out this first step, all I'd have to do is go to the first step. This is the record, expand it, and I have the field names and the data right there. Go ahead and add my description, and if I need to add any other important notes, I can type that right in. So you have full customization now to build out these documents, which again, we didn't quite have the flexibility to this level previously. Okay, so then once I'm done with my document, I can go ahead, I'm just going to cancel out the changes, and I can go ahead and send this for approval, all within the system, just like you would any of our other document records. Okay, so now I'm going to hop into our next exciting feature that we've been working on, which is our dynamic tables. All right, so for dynamic tables, what we worked on, this is our table view. We're accelerating an out-of-Excel initiative to centralize the detailed data management and analysis workflows within QbDVision. So our goal here is to streamline the data path from all of the multiple scattered sources to be integrated with the rest of our process modules. And to start this, what we had to do was update our existing tables to lay this foundation to enable more powerful capabilities. And we think that by doing so, we'll make it easier and more efficient to manage and analyze data within the platform, especially from that multi-record view. Oops. All right, so now I'm going to hop back into the software to show you what this looks like. So here you can see, let me go ahead and scroll out. All right, so as I'm loading that, you can see overall that we modernize the look and feel of the tables. Is it too small? Let's see. And every time you reload it, you can resize these columns in the table so it will automatically fit. And what we did in terms of modernizing the look and feel is to add visual dimension and depth to make it easier to scan through the table. So we wanted to reduce the visual friction that was there before. And this all makes it much easier and faster to consume the data from this view. We also added different functionality. So we added the ability to rearrange columns. You can also resize these columns. And the best thing is that when you reload this view, it will stay the same. We also still have our ability to select which filters and columns that you want to show, and then you can apply those to the table as well. Okay, so along with this, again, that was just more of the foundation part. What we're excited for is moving towards these power functions, so the ability to manage multiple records at one time in one flow, which hasn't been available previous to today. So what we started with is the ability to bulk edit consistent fields across these records. So let's say, I have in-process testing available, and that's my control strategy justification for any high criticality records that I've indicated control method for. So I'm going to go ahead and select multiple columns here, and I have impeller speed as well. And once I do this, I can navigate to this upper right-hand corner and press edit, and that will launch this side panel where I can select which field that I want to change. So let's say control strategy justification. I can type whatever value that I want to add in. So I have in-process testing available. And then I can go ahead and save those changes. And that update will propagate through both records in the field. So this is one of the first power functions that we have available. As you can see here, we also have the availability to propose these for approval. That will launch you into a bulk propose window that you may be familiar with if you're used to using it for our unit operations. And what we plan to do besides that is make every field, regardless of the type, available for bulk edit. And again, just so that you're able to manage this information more easily and more quickly in a workflow. And what this will do is, when you're looking at this view, you can now highlight gaps more quickly and you can address those gaps. If you see that you're typing pH in 5 different ways, let's standardize that. And this is the way it will be easiest to go ahead and do that. Okay, so yeah, we're going to keep working on this. Some of the features are available in experimental today, so you can go ahead and take advantage of those, and then we're going to just continue to grow it. What we want to do is add in even more information and kind of lay a foundation so we can move towards calculated parameters and kind of, again, moving towards that out of Excel initiative and bringing that within QbDVision. Okay, so what we've done so far is that we've rolled it out to the control method module. Previously, this was a list. And what we're going to do is continue this rollout. So anywhere where there was a list before, we're going to update it with these dynamic tables. It'll be suppliers, users, risk management plans, data, and really any other module we have available. All right. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Luke, and I'll hop back into the slides. I'll set you up.
Awesome, thank you. You rock, thank you, Natalie. Okay, so we saw some of this, but last year we heard, is it possible? That was sort of the theme from one of yesterday's conversations. And we went ahead and built some things that we showed. So I've got some of the logos up on the screen, but just as a recap, one of the areas that we were going after this year was connecting these tools together. So we went ahead and added on to some of our existing tools into our API, added some new capabilities on to make these pieces happen. So with the Zater team, we worked on that ISA 95 export and some import capabilities to be able to push out to an MES. With the Siemens team, as we showed and demonstrated how we can push our structure into RIF and X. And then with the Rockwell team, we partnered with them to import S88 data into the system. So that was a big part of what we did. And in order to accomplish that, one of the things that we created are 2 pieces. One is we demonstrated how and started putting together a set of schema mapping technologies. So we know that the QbDVision structure isn't the end-all, be-all structure. Obviously, Yash talked a bit about that in his session yesterday, how we put a stake in the ground. We started with that. But ultimately, our view is that we need to be able to manipulate this data and send it where it needs to go or get it into where it needs to come from. And with that, there's two pieces. One, there's obviously the ability to move it, right? The shuttling of that, the import, the export capability. And second is the structuring of that information. And so for that, we worked through IS-888, we worked through 95. We heard from Sue yesterday about PQCMC, right? We heard about some of the regulatory topics as well. So we're also working on mapping for those systems as they start to come about, and sort of working to continue to build and map QbDVision to the other standards that are out there, making it more flexible. As we know, for example, with 95 or 88, every implementation is slightly different, and there are some tools that we need to do that. So one of the pieces that we added as well more recently is the ability to start to modify that schema or change how things work as you're sending information around to other systems. So here I'll just show you, this is Process Explorer. You guys have seen this before. You guys have probably seen it a billion times. But some of the capabilities that we're starting to add and are coming out is we're starting to create sort of mapping systems for other tools. So using our API, we're able to sort of set up the various integrations that are connected to a process here. So here you can see I've connected it to 4 different systems, right? And now I'm starting to build, this is gonna allow me to build out a mapping tool to each of those systems to then set up how I wanna transfer that information around. So I'm going to dive into affinity chromatography here. I'm going to come into my loading step, and I'm going to look at linear flow rate for this piece. So this is our process parameter structure. Shouldn't be new to anybody here within. But what we've added into here is the capability to sort of apply some mappings for the various integrations. Just go ahead and put this in edit mode. So you can see here what we've done is we've started to lay out what that will look like and how those will map over to other systems. So you can see here we've got in our MES, maybe it's parameterized, so we have some structures, we have some name targets that we're going after. In the LIMS, it's a more standard rate. And then in our regulatory information management system, our RIM, we have a different format. And for each of the pieces in here, what we've built out is we also know that as we go through this, each system is going to take values in a slightly different way. So QbDVision has its own structure. So for example, up here, we'll take a look at the acceptance criteria. So in here, for this parameter specifically, we've documented NOR and PAR. And this is the structure that exists in QbDVision. But what we know is some other systems might take that in a slightly different format. So what we did is, and Natalie showed one of the big efforts that we did this year was sort of within Doc Builder separating out smart content from the editor. And what we've now done is move the smart content engine into our record editing or into our record itself. So what you can see here is our first iteration. So now what I'm able to do is in this field down here, I'm able to build out my own piece. So if I want to pass along a specific part of that acceptance criteria, I can directly reference it in here. I can put that information in, be it the target value, the measurement units. I can make those into composite fields. Then I can then ship into those systems. So here I can start to use that same engine to define how all these pieces come together. And I'll talk about this in the next section, this sort of approach that we're taking here and sort of putting it directly into our record structure, we're going to carry this forward into other areas. And it's really going to allow us to dynamically assemble content anywhere that it's needed. So this is a big part of it now in the API response. Now the callers no longer need to go and sort of restitch this information together. We can put it right in the system here and then build reports to validate it, get the structure right, get the schema right. It can be signed off directly in the platform. And there's no need for additional transcription work on the target systems. So it's a really powerful capability that we just started building. This is still an experimental, but we will be launching it relatively soon. This first version just released this last week before the conference. So we're really excited to play with that and bring this into our integrations. Plus, we've already heard from some of our customers some crazy ideas of where we can apply this next. So we're really excited for where this capability will take us. And we're really excited for where we're going to go and what we're starting to see unlock with our smart content engine. So outside of the integration standards mapping, there is a little bit more, of course. So one of the things for us, first and foremost, is going after performance. I think it was Grant in response to one of the questions is, you're never really going to keep up with that Excel or Word-like experience. But that's really our focus is, when we're thinking about how do we get more users onto the platform, right? That's a challenge, right? Change management is a challenge in any organization. And anytime a user has a reason to go into Excel, that's a friction point for us. So we want to make our system as fast as possible. Obviously, there's always limits to that. But that is a big area of focus for us right now. Our gentlemen over there are crunching numbers and figuring out ways. We've been instrumenting the system, really trying to find ways to make it as lightning fast as possible, because that's the experience we want to bring to the end user. We want to make it just as fast, as close as we can. Natalie talked a little bit about our Out of Excel initiative, right? If we want to get users away from the tools they have today, we have to make them as good and as fast as we can today. So that's really one area that we're going to be spending a lot of time on now. That's obviously a journey. Ryan talked about it a little bit in the opening. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but that's a big push for us in Q4 is really trying to make the system as snappy as possible. And then, of course, unless you've been living under a rock, you heard it here, the explosion of generative AI, the different capabilities. We have a couple of different pieces that are in different stages of what I'll call R&D or development that are going to be rolling out relatively soon, where we've used, and the team has come up with some pretty creative ways to leverage sort of some of the tools that are on the market now. So we have our standard search that we're rolling out, but one of the clever things that the team has done has come up with a way to, when you think about search on Google, some of the magic is obviously the indexing of content, but also what it shows back to you. And Yash kind of called out Google for not being good enough anymore in the Gen AI era. But one of the things we're doing is now, as we're taking those search results, we're using that natural language to come up and dynamically recreate the sorting algorithm for it based on what the user typed in. So there's some pretty cool applications that are coming in there. We also have some really powerful ideas of doing comparison directly in search and leveraging some other capabilities therein, leveraging those technologies. But that's one area that we've been hard at work on, getting the data indexed, getting it over to our search databases, standing those up. So that's going to be a powerful tool that we'll launch soon. We've worked a lot on trying to digitize batch records. We saw a really cool tool from the Rockwell team that they've done that as well. We have the capability, you saw as well from the Sanofi team, how we're leveraging our capabilities to work with C of A's. We're also working with batch records. How do we read the data off of those? We did a version of this last year, which was great, but once we saw the power of generative AI to apply to that same problem, we realized we can do so much better with that technology. The results are much better. Vasilios is sitting right there. He's the man behind the vision. So there's some really cool stuff coming out there. And then finally, Menta, which is our, our chat agent. Ryan talked about that a little bit. And for those of you that haven't seen it, what we've done is we've enabled directly in the platform, we've put some of these capabilities right in here. So we have within here, this is using OpenAI, the ability to go in and start prompting, and we're exploring with asking questions. So I'm in an A-gene project, so for a gene therapy, give me a list of critical parameters for depth filtration. Boom. And the system can, as you can see, spit out information like this. So we've built this to understand the context of not only QbDVision, so you can use language that's familiar to pharmaceutical domain. You don't have to translate everything for it, or it's pre-programmed with some of that information in it. We've also are pointing it towards common references, things to make it smarter around this context. And there's really powerful things you could do. It's smart enough to have that in sort of trailing form, so you can have a conversation. Now give that to me in a table with a list or with possible ranges. Actually didn't try that one out, so let's see how it goes. But really cool. Okay, great. Something came up. Awesome. So yeah, right there. So really, really powerful. Now, as Ryan mentioned, our biggest barrier here is not necessarily the technology, is the acceptance of that technology within organizations. We're spending a lot of time thinking about how to qualify something like this, where that goes. So this version today works with public data, information that we feed in, our ultimate vision, and hopefully some of the cool stuff you guys come up with in the hackathon is really using this with your data and really having some fun with this. But the barriers to there are sort of sometimes a little bit out of our scope, but we're definitely looking to figure out ways to get this in from a security perspective, from a privacy perspective, and ultimately from an industry acceptance perspective. So, but some really powerful capabilities that we've been working on, and hopefully you guys can play around with this afternoon. So that's sort of wrapping up what we wanted to show in terms of the current state. Whoops, there we go. Next, we really want to talk about where we're going next, right? Sort of the bigger vision for what we're doing, and really where we're kind of thinking of or setting our new North Star around. And that's, we're really trying to come at the next version of QbDVision, right? We're really rethinking how some of these pieces work. We have a very solid foundation, but we've been working with our customers. We've been working with different systems. This conference has provided an excellent opportunity to collaborate on that. And we've recognized some areas where we can continue to grow. So we're going to take you through a little bit of that discussion now, and I'm going to invite Natalie back up to the stage to kind of talk us through the first part of that, and then I'll wrap us up.
All right, so first we're going to dive into our process model. What we really want to do is expand this process model. We're looking towards adding separate object types for intermediate outputs and samples. And so while we have kind of the capabilities to capture the attributes for your outputs through IQAs, We want to add these separate object types because it'll help us better integrate with our partner systems and also will help to match the real world processes that are executed. Okay, so we think that by doing this, by adding in, samples, for example, including sampling, it will open up a launch point for which we can add sampling points, sampling plans, and analytical data, and then bring more teams and workflows into our system. Okay, we also know that this type of information, collecting your samples, measuring them, massing them out, figuring out all the CQAs on them, this is information that's necessary to perform your mass balance and yield calculations. And again, we're looking towards the future for including that support in our platform as well. Okay, so along with this, we not only want to expand in terms of process objects, but we also want to focus in on process relationships. So we want to look to hone in and support the abilities to support process linking, branching, and process versioning. So we want to add more levels to our hierarchy today, and then again, capture those real-world complexities. And this way, you can model all of your processes more accurately. And we think by doing this work, it will really solidify our process module, which we know is such an important root for process definition and understanding. Okay, so along with expanding our process model, we want to go ahead and expand our data model and strengthen the underlying structure for it. What we want to do here is be able to build a context engine from a top-down approach to encompass all of the primary data generated. We want to be able to provide that context and explain what the primary data is and where it is. And we think that by making the primary data more accessible, users will be able to leverage it more efficiently and just get to more data-driven decisions faster. So in this next slide, you can see that our approach is to work through distinguishing primary data sources from analytics and reports. So we want to use this model to make QbDVision the platform that holds all of the metadata for your primary data and connecting that entire data ecosystem. And we think by doing this that will enable data traceability throughout the product lifecycle, and by pulling in the knowledge out of the specific people and teams and providing a home for it in our platform. Okay, so overall, we think that by improving the process model, improving the data model, we're creating a structure for data management, which is going to be key for enabling knowledge management. And with that, I will hand it back to Luke.
All right, thank you. Sort of the next area of focus for us, and I kind of hinted at this earlier, is one of the things we started to realize that was pretty novel is the smart content engine and where that could take us. So we saw that in Doc Builder as we started to put together composite fields, create the batch record, right? We saw a lot of capabilities coming around. Natalie talked about our Out of Excel initiative, right? We see dynamic tables as having the backbone and the capability to replace that as a tool. Now it's a big goal, right? It's hard to replace Excel. But we see that we have the capability to create powerful engines that really can replicate the majority, if not all, of those functions within there. That's going to be leveraged by pulling that smart content engine in to allow people to reorganize, set up custom fields, right? Build out things with the same kind of flexibility that you have in Excel, and that smart content engine is the key to that. We have a process flow map today, right? Well, we know we can do a lot more with that by enabling that in a Visio-like manner where people can drag and drop and pick columns and draw the diagrams they want to do. So you can see, really, we're not going after the Office suite, but we're thinking about how those suites are used as repeatable tools that we can leverage in the platform. We have tech transfer, we have comparison views. We talked a little bit about comparability yesterday, right? We have a lot of data about the different versions of your process. We have them all traced. We have the core data model. Now we're talking about building tools, more tools on top that allow users to sift through, make comparisons, build the views out that they want to build to be able to build comparability reports, build tech transfer reports, or really just understand a full layout of process history to track changes as they've gone throughout the entire system. So we can use that same engine to make it more powerful. We rolled out the material library earlier, or last year I should say. There's more plans in the works here for other libraries, again, leveraging that smart content. And then Natalie talked about the ability to have dynamic fields or custom fields, or if you will, where you can actually set up formulas so we can do certain calculations, again, leveraging that same smart content engine. And really the key here is, so the smart content is the framework that allows us to start to build out and allows customers to start to build out different layouts into different applications. But ultimately, the end goal is, as Ryan mentioned, is to provide that embedded intelligence, right? To move up a level and be able to catch things as they're going wrong, to be able to flag things for users. And when we're building it on that same base that's connected to the same data, we have real capability to start to go into that area and really start to build powerful rules engines, powerful flagging capabilities, and powerful tools that help you see and understand where things could or go wrong or where things are going well. Finally, we know and we've heard, and this is always a very contentious discussion for us amongst ourselves, but we know we want to improve flexibility in the platform. We started out, and one of our many mantras that we use in product here, it comes from Yash, it's throw a stake in the ground. Put something out there, get feedback, work through it. So we did that with our data model. We've been working through it. What we really have wanted to do over time is we didn't want to just open up the platform so anyone could put anything in, because we wanted to learn. We wanted to have a conversation. We knew nobody else had done this before, so we figured if we just opened up the whole thing, customers would make a mess, and we'd have not to belittle them, like a Viva or some other system that just had a bajillion fields in it that we couldn't maintain, and that would be our death. So we've been pretty tight on what's in the platform, but we have opportunities now as we go forward to open things up, to allow customers to start to layer in more customization around what goes in fields, to start to do things like the taxonomy presentation we saw from Yashka, right? To start to really put some more controls in and around the platform. We want to do that smartly. We want to do that with a rules engine. We want to do that with more configurable workflows to allow that to be seamless and to make sure that it doesn't get out of control. But we have a goal of sort of taking the platform up a level now. Now that we've learned a lot, now that we've seen it deployed, now that we know how customers are using it, the next era for us is really starting to open up the flexibility in the platform in a smart, intelligent way. So all of that leads together for us, like what we're really after is enabling these key digital workflows. The way we think about that is by building tools that we can reuse in different places, having that core knowledge graph as an engine, but really what we're after, what gets us up, how we spec out every feature is we think about these workflows. So how are people defining their process? How do we do process management better? How do we digitize tech transfer? That's really how we think, and these are the areas that you'll continue to see us invest in and go after. How do we do digital resource management? We started with the library. There's more to do there. How do we do digital control strategy, right? How do we make that a reality? And we have, to many extents, as you saw today in some of the presentations. Newer in here for us, those top and bottom have been sort of constant for us, but as you saw with Natalie and started seeing in some of these presentations, how do we go after structured submissions? What does that look like? How do we help customers go and be ready for ICH M4Q R2, right? And beyond. So that's definitely an area for us. You saw some work from Yashka about us trying to do that. We're going to be talking to the Bioform team, but that's an area we want to go towards. We want to help customers get there. We know the industry doesn't know exactly how it's going to be there, but we want to be a part of that. And then, as we said, master data management with data integrity. How do we help you guys, or how do we help the industry stitch together all the different studies that are going on and early tox studies coming on later into DOEs and experiments? We don't want to capture all the data. We don't want to replicate it, but we want to be able to put that together for users so they can see it when they're preparing those submissions. They have an understanding of what the history is. They know where it is, and we can point to those primary systems. We can grab data from those systems, and we can help author those pieces. So this is what our end state looks like. This is what our sort of vision is for QbDVision in terms of these workflows enabling it for our users. So with that, I will wrap. That's really where we want to be. As you guys all know, I think you guys have seen, we are a radically open company. Now, some of you may have seen it, some of you may not, but we'll invite you after. We do have All the content that you saw up here, plus more, our roadmap is open. It's actually on our website. The password is together. We can walk you through it, but everything you see up here, it's not hidden. We build in the open. That's a big part of our culture, so we invite you to collaborate with us. And more importantly, we invite you
All right, so we come to the end, well, at least of the presentation session. We're gonna have some fun this afternoon still, but last year when we decided to put this on, it was an experiment, right? It was the first time we had done this. It was also the first time that a vendor was hosting a conference inviting the industry, right? Vendors normally do user conferences, right? They bring their users in. But the challenge with that always is that becomes a bit of groupthink, right? Or it's an echo chamber, right? You know what you're telling them what you want to do. They're telling you how great your software is, so on and so forth, right? And you get some feedback, but we've known ever since we started QbDVision that what we're doing is brand new. It's not new in the sense of the work that you do every day, but it's new in the sense of how you think about putting this information together. And that still can be a challenge. So, we did this conference last year as an experiment, and it was wildly successful. People left saying, wow, there was just a lot of great content. I learned a lot. Please do this again, right? And so it's a great a recipe, a great thought process from our perspective to bring people together to actually have the hard conversations. I get tired of going to conferences where people talk about the what and the why, and they're very sort of lofty, ambiguous conversations. You go, yeah, I know I need to do that. I know I need to do that. I know I need to do that, but I don't know how. And I don't know how to get started. And so that's why in the beginning, we were talking a lot about, this is a conference about how, right? And we started sort of with a big picture conversation around how. We heard what Oliver's doing and Gloria's perspective and some of the bigger picture perspectives. And then we started to drill in, right? We had some of our industry partners here talking about what they're doing from their big picture perspective. And then we drilled in even further, right, into the case studies today that you're seeing, how people are actually doing it, how they're doing it. And so I'm over the moon about what we heard over the past couple of days. I think everything I've heard from speaking to many of you is that, the content was outstanding, and we want to keep that bar high, right? We want people to put a stake in the ground, right? And we want people to get started. It's hard, but I tell my daughters the two hardest things to do is to start something and to finish something, right? And so we're all about just getting started, right? And we have come a long way in a year. A lot of that has been because of the interaction with the ecosystem. I think if we were doing this in our own silo, if you will, we wouldn't be nearly as far along, right? And so certainly having everybody part of the conversation has helped us. Hopefully it's helped you. You're seeing where we're going, right? We're going to continue to drive this vision. We're going to continue to hold this conference. We're going to continue to raise the bar. And we're going to continue to work with all of you to continue to build this, because I think there's a lot of momentum now behind this, and I think the industry is really going to benefit as we try to work together with all of you to help you understand what's available, what's best for you, what's best for us, and how it all just essentially makes therapies higher quality and more accessible to the patients that we're trying to serve. So thank you all again for being here. Thank you all again for your participation. Thank you all again for your great questions, and we look forward to working with you over the next year as well to continue this progress, and we'll see you again at the 3rd Annual Digital CMC Summit.